You've been asking to do experiments for a long time, but many of them you should never do it again, or otherwise it will be like this. If you take an empty glass bottle and pour hot water from kettle, then nothing will happen. But now, put a safety glove, close the bottle, and turn it upside down. We're gonna need a nice chunk of ice that we put on top of the bottle, and literally 50 seconds later the water starts to boil inside of the bottle. But how is that? Because the ice only cools it down but doesn't heat up. That's right, the ice cools up the top of the bottle and therefore the air that in that part. The cooled air begins to compress and the pressure in the bottle drops, and as you know from the physics class, the lower pressure water boils at the lower temperatures. This fact explains why high up in the mountains where the pressure is lower pressure, ice can boil even at the 80 degrees. By the way, ice has another special thing. If you take two pieces and press them together, they stick together. And that's the strength of the glue is enough to make a bizarre shape like this. We found a very interesting experiment on the internet with an ordinary grapes, and we decided to see how it works. You have to take a long stick and put two grapes on its ends. Then tie a string and get in the balance. And now, if you take an ordinary magnet and bring it close to the grape, but without touching it, it starts to repel and fly away from the magnet. It's all funny, but how does it happen? What do we know about grapes? That's very sweet. So maybe that's why they run away from the magnet. To test this, let's take something sweet like a candy. This time we decide to make to wingle by bringing and removing the magnet at a certain pace, and it worked. Probably it's because of sugar. To be sure of that, we put a small boat on the water, and as a passenger we put a sugar cube and magnetize it. Yes, that's it. Our ship sailed on the sugar cube, and now we're sure that's sugar that's repelling and it's responsible for the physics effect. For the next experiment, we're going to need an ordinary leaf from a bush, on which with a pair of scissors cut glue like this. Next we pour water in a small tray and take an ordinary ball paint pen. We take out the sharp and ink inside of it. Now we put a sheet of paper on water and drop the ink on the edge of its glove. The ink has been applied, so it's just a little bit touching the water. If you do it right, it's like the leaf looks like they got an engine and starts to run through the water like a motorboat. Honestly, I don't know how it works. That would be interesting. If you have to say anything to explain it, write in the comments. By the way, we're planning to do another edition of experiments, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. If you take ordinary plastic comb and rub it on some kind of cloth, preferably synthetic cloth, you get a charge of static electricity. It builds up in order to change static electricity, which can attract all sort of things, even ordinary tap water. Notice the micro droplets of water. They start to swirl and even go up. This is a safe experiment and you can try it at any time. I almost forgot about the grapes in dried form, or rather raisins. If you pour it in some kind of container and fill it with carbonated water, it starts to cause bubbles to form on its surface, and the raisins start flying up in the jar like they're boiling in the liquid. And this is not a short-term effect. Even after 2 hours, we accidentally found some of the raisins continued to make these movements. Let's get some fruit juice in petri dish and warm it over the fire. In the process, we need to add some kind of thickener like an agar or gelatin. We're going to give it a good and bring it to gentle boil. Now we pour vegetable oil into some kind of clear container. We take our juice in a dropper and add a juice into the oil. Each droplet is almost instantly transforms into the ball and falls in the bottom of the container. This way we get a delicious and sweet fruit roll. And probably in the same way, dishonest firms counterfeit fish and then sells it as a real one. Many of you probably already know, if you add in a bottle of drainer cleaner, then you take ordinary balloon, throw it in some kitchen foil in the form of little balls and put it in a bottle. Then immediately a chemical reaction begins with the release of gas, which will gradually fill our balloon. So that in the end we get flying balloon without using helium. But few people know that such experience is very dangerous. First of all, the bottle gets very hot in the liquid reacting with the foil. And secondly, the gas we're pumping inside the balloon is highly explosive, and to demonstrate it, we're bringing the flame to it at a safe distance. You see the explosion? That's why it's much safer to watch these kind of experiments on YouTube than do them on your own. Even Cookie is shook. He thinks there's a World War III on the street. And for the last one, probably one of the most interesting experiment, we need a picture of Cookie and device to make a homemade pasta. And that's what we do. We put a picture of Cookie in the machine and twist the handle, cut the photo into multiple strips of equal size, let's say macaroni. And now we separate the strip into the two pieces by mixing them together. And you won't believe or not, we end up with two pictures of which you can tell what's in the picture. Oh wow! But we move on. We put painter tape to hold strips together and then cut them at a different angle. Now we repeat the manipulation again on these two images again, and what you think? We get 4 pictures with very clear image. Yes, the cats have slightly different facial expressions, but still cats and not a mess of pixels. Do you think if we cut them into 8 pictures, do you think it would have the same effect? Find out, subscribe to the channel, because we will find out in the next video, can we get 8 pictures out of 1.